Good morning, everybody, and welcome to your Monday message of mental health with me, Dr. Jen, and the Rowe Center for Learning. So, what a weekend! Yeah, it was minute to minute action. I don't even think Steven Spielberg could have directed anything quite like it. It was quite something. And so, this Monday now, what I'm really hoping everyone can do is to breathe and be. Just be. To be with your emotions, to be with your thoughts, to be and to breathe through that. I know that sounds like hokey, new agey, I don't know what. But the thing is, we don't do that very well. I'm going to use the election as an example. There are other examples I'll throw in too. Really, in general, we don't sit in our feelings very well as people. We tend to push them away, whether they're good feelings or whether they're uncomfortable feelings. We tend to push them away and move on and not allow ourselves to just be in how we're feeling. So you want to do that, and I'll give you some examples of why. So if you found this weekend to turn out the way you wanted it to turn out, let's say, then you're probably filled with a lot of emotions of relief, maybe joy, maybe hope, promise, inspiration, lots of those feelings. What we tend to do is what I've heard lots of people say in the last 2 days, which is, oh, yes, but of course, there's a lot of work to be done and horrible things are happening and we've really got to focus on, and you just skate right over your feelings of joy and relief and hope and inspiration. And we don't want to do that. We want to be able to rest for a minute in in our happiness of how things turned out, our relief in that big fight that went our way. We want to be able to just sit in that, because a lot of you have been languishing for 4 years or more, maybe a lifetime. And so it's exhausting to be in that place. And the balance is to finally get this moment. And even if it is only a moment, because then there's hard work and other things that happen in our worlds that make us feel different feelings, we want to honor where we are at right now. And just take that minute to do that and really feel all of it. Don't forget that a lot of hard work and change is way more motivated by positive reasons and emotions than negative ones. And so you want to really feel what it feels like right now to have all of that joy and to have all of that hope, because that's what you're fighting for. You want more of that. You want to feel that more and more and more. So get in touch with it now and then let it be your fuel. Now, obviously, not everyone had those feelings after this weekend. In fact, almost half the country feels very different today. They're not feeling the joy. They're feeling despair. They're feeling discouraged, angry, sad, worried. And so when you're feeling that way, of course, that all of that is uncomfortable. We don't want to feel any of those emotions. And so you'll quickly push that into action and not just sit with it. But what can happen is that if you don't sit with those emotions and really allow yourself to feel them fully, and you just rush into action, what ends up happening is you can have impulsive actions that you end up regretting later, and that can cause a lot of harm. And we don't want that for you or for anybody around you, right? So you want to allow the emotions their time, their space, and then act. Now, of course, this is not only about the election. This is true with pretty much anything in your life. So one of the things that I find a lot working with people is that a feeling that a lot of people don't allow themselves to feel are some of the better feelings, even though you would think we spend so much time trying to avoid the negative feelings and just love and live in the happy feelings. That's not actually true. So we tend to sort of skate away happy feelings. I'll use pride as an example, that if you do something and you worked hard and you succeed and it's like this awesome thing, that so often people will skirt away that feeling and they'll say it was luck, or divine intervention or right place, right time, or all because of other people. And they won't just sit in that feeling of, yay me, I worked really hard and something good came out of it. And I feel good. Like that was good. That was a win. That was a win for me. We don't. We tend to like skirt it away and rush on to it must have been somebody else. And that's not good. Similarly, if we have an experience that is really unpleasant, maybe we make a decision that we don't feel good about and we end up feeling guilt. And we think, oh, that was not good. I feel terrible that I did that. And that is such a horrible feeling that we'll skirt that away and say things like, sometimes we'll say, well, they deserved it. Or sometimes they'll say, well, it was my fault. Or sometimes we'll just feel so much guilt and feel so horrible about ourselves that we just can't even feel that, and we'll distract ourselves away to something completely and just move on. But the thing is, again, you don't want to do that, because guilt, even though it's uncomfortable, and pride, even though for some of you it's uncomfortable, those emotions again are going to fuel us. Because when you're proud about something that you did and it went well, then you want to do more of it. And when you're guilty about something that didn't go well, you don't want to feel that again. It's unpleasant. And so again, you'll be fueled to not make that mistake, or fueled to make an amend if possible, or both. Right? And so our emotions are our guides, our guideposts. And so we want to be able to really experience them and not just push them away, whether it is a comfortable or an uncomfortable emotion. Now, similarly, if you have those feelings of anger and sadness and despair and fear and all of those, and you don't honor them and sit with them right now, and you try to push them away and go off and do something else and don't address them, what happens is that they build. Emotions are not things you can ignore. You can ignore them temporarily, but you have to come back to them and sit in them and be. If you don't, they'll start to grow and fester, and they'll build. And the more that you don't pay attention to them and push them off to the side, the more they build. And then you can be explosive. You can be explosive in a time and a place and a situation that doesn't make any sense to others around you or to yourself, but also that can be really harmful to you and to the people around you. We don't want that either, right? So you don't want emotion building. You want to be able to experience, feel, sit with, breathe in, and be with the emotions as they're happening to the best of your ability. Or if you're temporarily pushing them aside because of wherever you're at, then to be able to return to them and honor them. That is the way forward. That's the way forward for all of us. So back to using the election as an example, what we know to be true is that whatever you're feeling right now, whether it is elation or whether it is horror or anything in between, the way forward is for us to find a way to meet. So before we can do that and find ways to move forward together, respect each other's feelings, thoughts, opinions, and find common ground to move forward, which this country desperately needs, before we can do that, we have to honor how we feel and allow that to have its time. Then we can move forward. So off the election, same thing in your own lives. If you have goals that you're trying to reach and you haven't sat with your emotions, they can be barriers. They can become real barriers for you to get to where you want to go. Don't let that happen to you. Sit with them. Now, the biggest reason, with the uncomfortable reason, the biggest reason that we don't do that is because we worry we're going to get stuck in it. Either we're going to get stuck in that pride and that's going to become egotistical, or we're going to get stuck in that despair and that's going to lead to depression, and we're not going to be able to get ourselves out of it. In later Monday messages, we can talk a little bit more about that idea of being stuck and certainly what to do if you start to feel that way. But the fear of that is much bigger than the reality of that. Don't let that fear of getting stuck prevent you from feeling what you're feeling. So together, let us all take a big collective breath and just feel. That's your Monday message for this week. I wish you all a big week of feeling those feelings, and next week we'll come back for more.